Welcome all to the third episode of the Forgotten Gold podcast, where I interview people I met just through saying hi, to prove that the most interesting people, well, they're all around us. In episode 3, I interviewed Jackson, Coffey and Steph Gillies. We met in a car park in Esperance where I was cleaning out my van. I had a quick chat with Jackson, and without knowing him too well at all, I said, "Do you want to come on my podcast?" He said yes. So we sat down, we got everything set up. We cover some very fascinating subjects on today's podcast, from a lifetime living on the road, from surfing with Billabong, from fishing in the most remote and awesome places. So join me as we get to know Jackson and Steph together. A quick side note before we begin today's podcast. We actually had to film this one twice due to a camera malfunction, so a big thank you to Jackson and Steph for sticking around for what was pretty much 2 podcasts. Also, on our second attempt at the podcast, we didn't actually get all the camera footage, but rather we only got all the podcast footage. If you're watching this on YouTube, around halfway through the camera footage comes back on. But enough of that, let's get into the podcast. Life story. Let's start.
Life story. When I was 10 years old, my mum had a really bad accident. She was actually skateboarding and was doing like a 360 on the road and hit a rock and fell back, hit her head, had bleeding on the brain, broken neck. And at that point, my dad, he would have been 32 or something, had 5 kids under the age of 10, had houses all in Sydney, had a massive bricklaying, had 20 guys working for him. And mum was on the verge of dying in the hospital. Like in the ward that she was in, there was 9 other people in the room. 8 of them died and she's the only one that survived. And at that moment, when Dad had so much chaos in his life, I think he just had enough and decided he wanted to change something. When Mum started to get better in the hospital, he ended up and she also too wanted to do this as well. They decided they wanted to go around Australia. And in that moment, they sold everything they had in Sydney and we started traveling around Australia. So that's how we started. This is how, and since then, that was like 20 years ago, that's how it's all started, us traveling around Australia.
Yeah. So you're living out of, you said a Land Cruiser?
We were living out of it was a Troopy and a caravan.
And how big is a caravan? So you said you had 4 sisters, plus you, plus your parents. So, wait, 5, 6,
4 girls, me and Mum and Dad, yeah.
So that would have been a pretty squishy...
We were kids then, but so Bonnie, my younger sister, would have been, like Ruby and Bonnie, my 2 younger sisters, don't even remember really going around Australia. So that would have been like 2 and 4, and then Holly was like 6 or 7, and then I was 10 and Ellie was a little bit older, but yeah, so we were all pretty young. So the caravan was like, I think it was a 22-foot, a real old thing, caravan. And when my dad's real loose with the way he does things. When we were traveling around, Dad had a Troopy. He had a flat bed in the back of it, and we all laid sideways in the back. No seatbelts. The car was unregistered. He didn't have a license. We had a boat on the roof of the on the roof of the Troopy, and we had I think it was a 42 stroke on the bull bar, the motor. So that's how we travelled around.
How did this not, did you have any problems with cops in this whole trip?
We had
because
what?
It sounds very, not very legal, to say the least.
It was different back then, I think, a little bit than it is now. You could never do that now. But we had one incident with a cop. We were going across the top, like deserted as. Cop pulled us over didn't pull us over, just pulled us in, and he was just checking licenses. And Dad just said to us, "Oh, just jump under the blankets." We all jumped under the blankets. I think one was sitting in the middle with Mum and had a seatbelt on, and he just went, "Oh, okay." And I think he knew it was going on, but just let us go.
But didn't you say Dad didn't have a license?
So I think no. That what happened was Dad didn't have a license, and Mum never drove.
Oh, okay.
Mum never drove, and at this point, for some random reason, they swapped seats, and they pulled us over. Was just checking licenses. Mum had a license.
Has your dad got a license now?
He does.
Okay.
But we had jet skis and boats for the last 15 years, and he'd never had a license. And we'd been caught twice with him with no license, and he's only just got one the other day.
So he's the sort of guy that likes to live pretty loosely.
He lives very loosely.
I think to make that big change, you have to be someone who can just be like, let's just live life to the max.
Yeah.
And as we touched on when we were recording before, that it was a big change for you as well.
Yes.
You know, you were quite young, and to go from living out of a house your whole life and living a life of relaxation and have a bed and stuff like that to let's hit the road. Let's talk about the change that came into you on these sort of years.
So before we left, I was addicted to playing video games online. I just played RuneScape. Mum and Dad always took us out, and I played soccer and done like all kids sports and that, but never really left the house. I'd never, not say left the house, just I was addicted to playing video games.
Yeah.
And when we started traveling around Australia, it was such a big change up. The first place we pulled up into was like a national park. No one was there. And we were all of us were sort of a bit, what do we do, you know, like trying to figure out what's going on. And then Dad's just like, this is it. Like, this is your new life. Go and climb the trees, go and play in the sand dunes, go and make a bow and arrow. And that's just how it all started.
When he first said that, were you like, what? I can't believe this. Or were you just like straight away, just like, this is how it is. I got no other choice. All right, I'm going to go climb that tree over there.
I think the addiction to the online games took probably a couple of weeks to filter out, and then once I'd lost that, it was just game on. Like, I was ready to just go live life. Yeah.
Probably the best way to get out of something like that is just cold turkey, completely loose, thrown into the real world.
Yeah.
And we spoke before about you were afraid of the ocean, and then 4 years later, after you got this life, you got a Billabong sponsorship.
Yeah.
And you're free surfing across Australia and the world for Billabong. How did you overcome this fear for the ocean and have this crazy joy for surfing?
Yeah. So when we lived in Sydney, I'd done nippers and that, and I would never do any of the swimming or board races. I was terrified of the ocean. And when we started going around Australia, I still didn't surf for like the first month or two. And then I remember it clear as day. One day went surfing, and it just clicked for me, and I was addicted from then on. And when we were traveling around Australia, I just surfed the whole way around, and it just became my life. Like, surfing just literally took over. It's all I wanted to do. And yeah, I just guess through traveling and just, lost my train of thought there. Let's wait for this car to stop for a second.
Stop beeping. All right, that is fascinating. How you can just change your life so much, and it's almost like a message to everyone. It's like you don't have to keep living how you're living. You can go and explore and live life. And something that we touched on before is how cheap you have done it, and how this was a $5,000 car, and you just hit the road and you got your tinny for real cheap. And so it's that excites me in terms of, for people listening, is you can change your life without that much money and just hit the road. And can we touch on, I suppose, how you've been funding this, and also your YouTube channel that you've got to document all of this?
Yeah. So yeah, I've started doing a YouTube channel, and I think if you've watched it, you'll notice a lot of it is just done off cheap trips, and it doesn't cost a lot of money to do what I'm doing. Like, yeah, bought this car for $5,000. I mean, the kit out in the end was a bit more with the canopy and the fridges and the batteries and everything, but it's a reasonably cheap car compared to what you see a lot of young people trying to travel around Australia. They've got the massive cars and usually a massive mortgage with it. I think having a debt-free car and being able to travel without the debt has really been the crucial thing for me to be able to do what I do. But I've always just worked in the trade industry. When I got dropped by Billabong in my 20s, I started bricklaying with Dad. I'd done that for 4 years. Me and Steph were she was living on the Goldie, I was living in Sydney, and we were doing long distance from basically the get-go in our relationship. And then I did roofing in Nambucca with my mate Phoenix, concreting in Ballina, and then a year or two ago I worked in the mines doing steel fixing and concreting. And I've also always had the attitude with work, if you go hard and the people around you and enjoying you being there, you're gonna get work and they're gonna pay you good. And that's just the attitude I've kept with working, and that's what's fun to do. But the goal is one day to be able to hopefully do YouTube and I can continue just cruising.
And your YouTube is, actually, before we touch on that, Steph, we haven't even said hi yet.
Hello.
Let's give us a rundown of how you ended up sitting in the back of that very comfortable looking bed right now.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting actually. I do love our story. So I'm from South Brisbane, Logan. So shout out to Logan. We've got a bit of a name, but you know, that's all right. And I moved to Coolangatta when I was 21. I worked at the local Woolworths there. And Jacko was the customer and he would come to my register, and that's how we kind of got talking, and he was traveling and I was traveling, so we would miss each other. This was over like maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
And then we went to after work I went to the Zambreros to get some dinner, and he just happened to be there. He just got his wisdom teeth out, so he was a little bit high and a little bit confident, I think. And we got talking, and then he found me on Facebook that night, which is strange because we have no mutual friends and he didn't know my last
How
name.
did you go about it? Not knowing the last name and just having the first name. That like, there's a lot of Stephs around. And was you would have
I've
had
never
to
told her
like
this.
be like, is it Steph? Is it Stephanie? You know.
I went full stalker. No, what I did was I went to the Coolangatta Woolworths, their page, and then I think you were friends, or it was something along them lines.
That's actually a very, very good way to do it.
Yeah,
That's smart.
And the funny thing is too, I'm really, really bad with names, and I kept forgetting her name, so I couldn't keep looking it up. But that's it's embarrassing. I Steph remembered it and got it locked in.
All right. So Steph, you guys met, and then how long afterwards did you move into this van? And as we touched on before, it was a big lifestyle change from you because you had never really done much camping.
Yeah. So I didn't grow up camping, but we did travel a lot of Australia when I was young, and I loved the beach. I love traveling. I love kind of living this lifestyle already. But yeah, camping was like a whole new thing for me. So when we first started dating, Jacko was working in Sydney. We did one camping trip to Crescent, and it was in a different car. It was actually it was a Nissan Patrol, yeah? Yeah, but just a different... A wagon, yeah. And we did one camping trip and we couldn't sit up in the back, and it was just horrible, actually. So we got rid of that car, and Jacko brought this one off his pop, actually, but I'll let him do that story. And so that was probably like a year or two of just traveling up and down the East Coast together, and, you know, in between jobs and doing the perfect fit out. And then we started our Oz trip maybe 4 years ago now. So yeah, I think I've adjusted pretty well. There's a few things that I miss, like a bathroom and having a shower every day, but other than that, like, I absolutely love it. I genuinely don't know what I would do after this. I don't know. It hasn't come to me yet.
It's, at the moment, you're living in the present, and you're like, this is exactly where I want to be.
This is so good. Yeah, exactly.
Right
This
now.
is exactly where I want to be. We have, my sister just had a baby, so we flew home for a few months. And just the whole time, like, we were just wishing to get back in the car and keep traveling. So this is definitely, like, exactly where we need to be. Our goal is to keep traveling and doing this. Hopefully, like, YouTube kicks off and we can, I guess, afford it. But other than that, if we have to go to work for a few months, like, that's fine too.
And as you're saying before, work sort of like grounds you and makes you appreciate how cool what you're doing is.
Yeah. So we did a stint in Karratha a few years ago, and we did 3 months there. And Jacko just flogged his body really. He pretty much had 3 days off in 3 months. He saved up 50 grand. And that was, so we first started our trip.
12-hour days.
Yeah.
No way.
So we first started our trip, and we had 25 grand was our first trip, and that got us to Karratha. Then we did 3 months in Karratha, and that got us like 50 between us, maybe 55. I didn't really save that much. I'm not very good at saving. And then that got us like the next 2 years of traveling. So yeah, we only worked 3 months, and it was such a good thing to do because you're in that work routine, you're getting that lifestyle, but you're actually making money and you're moving forward. And it's just like a short amount of time. So you're not kind of like, I guess.
You have a goal. And you
Yeah.
set. Yeah. It's good when you work, I think, in stints. Like you just work, put your head down, and not think about surfing and fishing, just get it done.
And because
Save.
there's that, there's a date where you're going to stop working.
Yeah.
It allows you to,
work towards it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like you're going, oh, another day at work. When will I ever leave this place?
Yeah.
It's like, sweet, that's the date. I think for people wanting to get out on the road is giving themselves a date.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to touch on, the first dude I interviewed, I asked him, I was like, how does someone prepare for a life on the road? And the first thing he said was, you got to practice, got to do like little runs and slowly build up. But by the sounds of it, you two didn't do that. You just went
Was he
straight.
Doing little runs in that before he was traveling.
Pardon?
Like all little runs in his car.
Yeah,
I
like-
thought you meant he was like
No. Like doing little like a week trip, a month trip. And then he was like, all right, I can do this full time now.
Yeah.
But it sounds, and that's the way most people have done it
Yeah.
that I've spoken to. You guys are the first ones that you just like, yeah, sell my house, sold everything, let's just travel, which I think is an awesome way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, by the time I started, I was living in my car anyway.
Yeah.
Before we went to Australia, I was living in my car for 4 or 5 years. So it was just, all right, now it's time to go around Australia. Let's go. So yeah,
For me,
yeah, for you.
yeah, I mean, we didn't really practice or anything. I guess we did a few stints in Crescent, but Jacko's from there, and we also had a house. So I guess going around Australia was just kind of okay, this is what we're doing, and that's just what we did, and we haven't really looked back. I wouldn't say that you need to practice. Well, I don't know. I don't think you have to practice or anything for it. I think you just have to be in that mindset of, yeah, there's going to be a lot of downtime, and some people do get bored, but then you just got to find a hobby, or you just got to find like little things on the road that keeps you, I guess, active. And we always get into like a good routine of waking up and checking out like a national park, or going on a hike, or going out fishing, which takes up most of the day, and going snorkeling and like all that. So I think, little things like that. We do have a boat, which I think makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, which is not here with us, but yeah. So yeah, I don't think you need to really prepare. Just prepare for not clean bathrooms. That's it.
And not taking heaps of like congesting your car. When you take things before, this is probably the main thing I'd say if you're looking to travel around Australia. Before you leave, if you don't think you're going to use it, then don't take it. Unless you think it's a necessity, bring it. And on the road, if you realize you do need it, buy it as you go. Don't stack your car with, I might use this, I might use that. Just take the necessities, and then you won't be so cluttered, and your setup won't get so frustrating.
And you learn how to live a more minimal life, which is necessary. Because I know even my van at the moment, I've kind of just got to have a lot of stuff like music gear.
Yeah, it'd be hard with that.
It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's always messy, and I'm always cleaning it, and then I just give up, and I go, all right, I've got to clean it again. And seeing your guys fit out, you just kind of got everything you need, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's how it should be. And that kind of, it's how it has to be.
Yeah.
Let's touch on your YouTube channel, but we haven't even touched on you're a bit of a fisherman.
Yeah.
And you got a bit of an expedition coming up.
Yes. Before we didn't touch on as well with the surfing. Should I touch on the surfing and then move it into the fishing?
Let's go surfing.
So I was paid to surf with Billabong from 16 to about 20 and traveled the whole world. Not the whole world, but done some really incredible trips over that 6 years. But I'd always fished my whole life and traveled around, always took fishing rods with me. And when I lost my sponsors from Billabong when I was about 20, I continued fishing and continued that, just putting it on social media and stuff. And it's kind of funny, the last 2 years now, I've kind of picked up fishing sponsors. So it's just been such a crazy transition. But we've bought this big boat, and my dad and sister might be rocking up here mid-podcast, and we're planning on doing island hopping the whole way up the west coast. So, yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting.
So when does that begin, by the way?
Well, it kind of begins here.
Well, it might begin today. So,
Oh, really? So just out here could be
So-
the first fishing spot.
the Esperance out here, we're going to go check the islands out here and just get a suss of the boat. There's going to be 6 of us on it, so we don't even know if it's going to...
Depends on the weather, I guess. It's been pretty...
We don't even know if we're going to be able to pull off what we're planning on doing. But the islands we're doing, it goes Esperance, and this is what we're planning. Esperance, and then we want to do Rottnest, and then we want to do the Abrolhos, Dirk Hartog, Miriam, Monty's, and then the Kimberleys. And that's like up the whole west coast of this country.
So you'd be driving, putting the boat in, fishing, driving, putting the boat in, fishing.
Yeah, so going out to the island, coming in, yeah.
How long are you expecting this to?
We're going to
This
try
is
to do it over the next 4 to 6 months because you kind of got weather windows with this. And I'm planning on, depending on how good the spots are, the max you'll stay out on an island will be like a week.
Okay, so when you're talking about, you said before that the boat fits 3 people pretty comfortably, and you've got
6.
6.
Yeah.
You're talking about a swag on the roof of the boat. Can't you just stay at these islands?
Well, a lot of them you can, and then a lot of them you can't.
Yeah.
Like, so a lot of islands, you're not allowed to camp on them. Out here, you can't even get on them because it's quite, got big
Like,
rocky,
they're like
isn't it?
just
It's
rocks.
just rocks. But there's ones like the Abrolhos, you're not allowed to camp on it, but then Monty's you can camp on there.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where you have to start thinking about sleeping on the boat and sleeping on land.
So do you think tonight you'll spend a night on the boat to test it out if the weather's
Weather's
alright?
good, I'd like to go out. Yeah.
Who's going to be the unlucky one who's got the swag on the roof of the boat? I really want to see this boat so I get an idea about what exactly are we dealing with.
I want to sleep on the roof, but Steph's not real keen.
Well, no. It's shark infested water. And then once you, get that area, that's your area.
Yeah.
So the whole trip, we would be at the swag on the boat or on the roof. And I don't want that when we go to the Kimberleys.
Yeah.
Why not the Kimberleys?
Crocs.
Oh, yeah. That didn't even cross my mind, but that's certainly a factor which could be a bit scary.
wind, the view would be great, but I just don't think. Let's get Holly and Griggs up on, they can go on the top. But our main goal for the trip is obviously the Abrolhos, which would be epic, and then the Kimberleys. So we want to actually drive the boat through the horizontal waterfalls. Have you seen them?
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
I don't-
So we want to do that. And I think maybe a month in the Kimberleys, that is our goal.
Yeah.
To spend 1 full month or maybe even longer, depends if we absolutely love it, and just seeing the Kimberleys from a different perspective, I guess. But being able to drive our boat through the horizontal falls will be
Can you
freaking
explain
wild.
what the horizontal falls are?
Yeah. Do you want to explain it, Jacko? Well, I feel like you know it a little bit better. But basically the water.
So in the Kimberleys, there's 8-meter tides. So can you imagine how much water that is?
Yeah, that's a lot of water.
And it can go up to 10 meters. So there's this section where the tide filters in, and it filters into a couple big bays and in between the rocks. So when it pushes in, it almost floods this area. Sorry, it's quite hard to explain, but can you imagine the opening of the horizontal waterfalls would be the width of probably 20 meters, and then it goes into a big bay, and because so much water is getting forced through this little zone that it creates, when you look at it from an aeroplane, if you look on it, it looks like a waterfall, and the water is and when it comes back out, it's moving so fast it looks like a horizontal waterfall. It's not a waterfall like that, it's a waterfall like that. Do you know what I mean?
I think I do. As soon as we're done this, I'm going to search up the horizontal
It's
waterfall.
wild.
So have you guys have you done much fishing on the west coast all the way up here?
Yes, so we've been over here for the last 4 winters now, and we tried to go around Australia, but we haven't made it past basically the northwest because the fishing is so good and we just love it. So We're hoping to maybe finish the lap this year, but
Our goal is to get to the Kimberleys, but that's our goal every year, and we just have not been
So
able to
get to the
there.
Kimberleys, and then if you're not loving it as much as you thought, which you probably will love it because
Yeah,
it's
we will.
WA and everywhere's
Yeah.
amazing, then you'll head Northern Territory and complete the lap.
Yeah. Well, Jacko actually hasn't gone to Uluru yet, so I've been there and I absolutely loved it, and I would love for him to go. So maybe we'll go down straight down the guts, as they say,
But-
and then we'll maybe come back and work or something.
we'll probably run out of money by the time we finish the Kimberleys.
So it might be time to get another
Go back.
another job
Back to work, yeah.
and working 12-hour days.
Yeah. 7 days a week. It's a weird feeling actually when you work to Sunday and then you back to work Monday.
How do you guys deal with it as a couple, not seeing each other and being tired all the time and working all the time? Like, is it hard?
We're a bit of a team with it, I
Yeah,
think.
we are a bit of a team, but Jacko did. He changed a lot in Karratha when he was working, but he was working so hard, so he, I guess, was a bit frustrated and a bit moody, but that's fair enough. But other than that, like, it's only a small amount of time, so we're really working for the same goal. And so we are a bit of a team. We work really, really well together. I think that's why we've been together for so long. So yeah, I just think we had that goal. That's our focus. We both strive for it and support each other through it. But there's definitely times where we go a bit nuts, and Jacko did change a little bit in Karratha, but as soon as he left that place, he was back to his old self.
I feel like working 7 days a week, 12-hour days, well, you would have hardly even seen each other as well.
Yeah. But also too, it's 40 degrees and you're wearing all longs. The flies are mental. And I hate flies. And when I was doing the steel fixing, it was in like a metal cask. So can you imagine how
So
hot
it's not
that-
just 40 degrees,
it was
it's
cooking.
50,
It was-
60, I don't even know.
Yeah. Every day I woke up like I felt like I'd gone for a marathon.
So, look, you're working this time. I know there's a deadline, but surely there would have been days where you're just like, I just can't. I just don't want to. I don't want to work today. Can I just quit and leave now?
That was probably the only thing that was getting me through it. It was a mental game of how far can I push myself and how many days can I work in a row. And it was almost a challenge I set myself to how far can I push this.
So, did you say you only have 1 day off in that whole
I
time?
had like 2 or 3, but basically the boss made me have them off.
Is it normal for someone to work 7
Well-
days a week for that long?
No, in that town.
No, it's definitely not normal, but we had this crew working with us at the time and it was over COVID and there was a few of us doing it. So
I suppose COVID, it's not like you could have really been traveling anyway.
No.
So you had that. But with COVID, you also didn't know when it was going to end. So it's
Yeah.
not like you had a date set that you could because you didn't know how long this was going to stretch out
yeah.
for.
Well, in the end, I did lose. I was going to leave anyway, but I lost my job through not getting the jab. So there was a bit of a set date in the end, whereas if you didn't have the jab by this date, you had to leave. So that was kind of the end date for me.
Was that, although it would have been terrible at the time, almost like, oh, thank goodness I get to leave? Or it's like, yeah, it's hard because you would have been so angry as well. That,
I was ready to leave anyway. So.
oh no, I don't have to work 12-hour days.
Oh no.
And you pretty much saved, like, you got to your goal of
Yeah.
money that you wanted to save as well.
I wanted to make 50 grand and I got that goal and yeah, I was happy.
Is it all like you could work there now again? Or is it still...
I wouldn't be able to work with that same guy, I don't reckon again, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of jobs up there where you can find, if you work hard and you have a go, there's work everywhere up north and they pay you good money. And you don't have to have a trade.
I might have a trip up north very soon, I reckon. I don't know. I hear that. I'm like, I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah.
I think I could at the end of it. I
Yeah.
think when a lot of times in your life, you just have to do things because you have to.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can change your mindset and focus on something. At least you definitely can.
Yeah.
Steph, were you working as well in Karratha?
Yeah, so I didn't get the pay that Jacko got, but I was working for a truck company, Centurion. Have you seen them on the highway?
Probably, but I
Yeah.
don't pay much attention.
Yeah, I had no idea who they were. I didn't even know the name. And they were like, oh, you've never heard of us? I'm like, I'm from the East Coast. Like, no, I haven't. But basically, I was a mail delivery driver for the town. So I work 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, sometimes Saturday. and I would just deliver the mail. And yeah, it was a very random job. It was actually quite stressful, and you have to be very organized, which I'm not. So it's interesting.
So what were your jobs before that? I'm guessing this would have been, as you said, quite a big change.
I have like a resume of the most randomest jobs. I have worked, at Woolworths. I've been a nanny. I've worked at Aesop Skincare. I've worked, where else? Mail delivery driver. Worked in hospitality. I don't have a set career, and I'm still kind of trying to find that. I thought like the first year that we were on the road that my career would be by the end of it, and it still hasn't. So I'm not sure. I'm a bit lost.
Do you think you'll ever have a career? Like, do you ever have a want for it? Because when you can live this life, it's kind of like, do I want to go get as you said, go get an actual trade?
Yeah.
When it's like, oh well. Yeah. Isn't this what living is?
Yeah, exactly. I do find like every time I go home, I get very I get a bit upset and a bit like, fuck, like what am I doing? Like I should be, I guess, doing the normal, and I have done the uni thing but dropped out, and I just haven't found my niche yet. And when you get to do this every day and you have friends that are just working 9 to 5 and only get 2 weeks of holidays at the end of the year at Christmas, like that's just not what I really want to do. And I'm 28, and my 20s have been the best time ever. I've traveled, I've done so many cool things, and I'm very thankful for that, and I'm very glad that I haven't had a set career. I started at uni doing my nursing degree, and if I finished that, I probably just would have been in a hospital, which is fine, great, but that's just not something that I envision for myself in my 20s. I want to live my 20s doing being selfish and doing things that I want to do and exploring and meeting new people. So but I do feel the pressure when I go home, and I'm like, oh my God, like I hate just working this random job. I want to be able to do something really cool, but I think I'm doing it. So yeah.
What about you, Jackson? Do you have a want to, I suppose, get a proper job? It's a weird question to ask, because what is a proper job?
Yeah. No, not really. No, I've never had. I've always just wanted to go fishing and surfing and travel. Money's never really been a want for me, or houses or things. The only thing I think about with money is if I get this, then I can go do that. That's the only want I have with money. Maybe when I get a bit older and I'm in my 30s and that, but right now I'm just loving traveling, on the move, and this is just this is the life I've had the last 20 years, so it's hard for me to see any other way.
Well, the fact is that your dad gave all the houses up to do it, and so you've kind of you've lived both lives.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna double.
Righto, where were we at?
We're just speaking about proper jobs, and that you're okay with
not having one, I guess.
And I think it's funny for me. I finished school, and then I got asked by my mate. He's like, "Do you want to come on this tour?" And I was tossing off going to uni or like doing music full time, and it was almost like a hard thing to choose. And now doing this, I've come to the conclusion of like, I don't want anything else. Like, this is awesome.
Mm.
And meeting people like you guys and everyone else that I've met.
Yeah.
It's exactly what you want.
I think you really have to think about, and when you travel and do this, you find out what you really want to do. And I mean, sometimes it's a bit selfish, but that you've only got one life. Like, you got to do what you want to do, and that's what I've always done.
Yeah. Well, I am interested in touching back on your time free surfing for Billabong.
Yeah.
You were 16, you didn't have a filmer, you're filming everything with a GoPro in your mouth.
Yeah.
What did they think about you doing that?
When I was first filming with the GoPro, it was quite a new thing. Like the POV visions and that was really new. So at the time, I guess it was just unique, and that was just what I was doing. I didn't have, and the reason I started doing it is I had a free surf contract with Billabong, but it wasn't a lot of money. It was enough money for me to still live at home and travel on a budget. So I didn't have a filmer, so I thought, I'll just take this GoPro and I'll still do these mad trips and pull off what everyone else is sort of doing, but with more money. That's not saying I still did trips with Hot 100 and I did board tests, but that was with a group of people. These trips were just like probably what started even just our YouTube now, it's all POV. It's all on a budget, and it's kind of just how it's all happened.
Yeah. Who are some of the surfers that you've surfed with? I am quite interested. And so I don't know much about what happens when you're a sponsored surfer, but you're getting sort of like a bit of a paid income. But do they also fly you out to surf spots to film, as you said, the Hot 100?
Yes. So the Hot 100 was like you get like a budget with what I had. You get a budget each year, and then however you use that budget throughout the year, and you bring content back to them, and that's sort of how it works. The Hot 100 was a Surfing Life magazine, and they used to do the under 18s or something, Hot 100 in Australia.
Yeah.
The top 5 used to go on a surf trip, and they'd take them to somewhere and take a filmer, and then they'd film the top 5 in Australia. Moment used to come in like the DVDs for the mags. So that was what that was like. But the board test for Tracks Mag was like they give you 5 or 6 different boards, and then you do reviews on them. So that's what that was for. But mainly with it is they give you a certain amount of money, and I just travel with it and give them back content, and that's just how it was. You get free clothes, free everything's just free.
So when this came to an end, can we talk about why it came to an end and what sort of it would have been was it a shock, or was it like right?
It was definitely, well, I wouldn't say it was a shock. Because a lot of people were getting, like, people who I looked up my whole life were getting, like, Laurie Towners and all these amazing surfers were getting dropped. So when I got dropped, it wasn't as if, like, it wasn't a shock. But it was pretty, it was definitely, like, I was surfing my whole life and chasing that dream. It was definitely a bit heartbreaking. Having to go from that straight, and like, had no money, straight into the trade industry with my dad. Was definitely like a little bit shit at the time, but in the end it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. Prior to working, I was definitely going on trips and taking things for granted, and once I started working with Dad and bricklaying and seeing how hard you have to work and how much you appreciate things, 100% changed my whole perspective on life. And not only that, when I had my own money, it was less pressure when I went on trips. Like, I used to have to go on trips and get content, and it wasn't as just free as what it is now. We go and do what I want because it's our money. There's no one there pressuring me to do nothing.
Do you still film stuff, go on surf trips and document it?
I still, with the YouTube, I do the surfing as much as I can, but it is more about the journey and fishing and just the whole everything around it. But yeah, I still surf all the time.
It's surfing's for you now rather than for them, and that pressure, you can be more present with surfing and enjoy it more because you don't have that, oh man, I've got to film this for the company, oh that wave wasn't good enough, that would have been stressful doing that, especially as a 16-year-old. Like, you're very young.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing you would have been a pretty mature 16-year-old as well, living on the road.
Yeah.
You would have to learn things pretty quickly.
Well, because I didn't go to school really, like I was homeschooled.
Yeah.
And I lived in the Crescent Head Caravan Park. Like, some of my best mates were 50 years old and still is now. I call him like weekly. He's one of my best friends. He's he's probably 60 now, but when I was 16, I used to go fishing with him, and he taught me so much about fishing, and I guess that just grows you up a fair bit then. But it definitely was like, you'd go on the Hot 100 trip, and there's a surfing video going out to the whole of Australia. Young kids wanting to watch, and you want to be surfing good. Yeah.
Boy, that is huge. That's huge to have that. It's interesting that you spoke about how you're friends with these older people. And that's something that I've found on the road is, like, the people you talk to are like twice your age. Like, I was hanging out with this guy, he would have been like 67, and this other dude who would have been like 45, and we're sitting in the car park talking each day, having these great chats. We ended up like going on hikes, and he took me for a ride in his aeroplane. It was crazy. It was the weirdest thing ever. And I feel like it teaches you, it's this big change that you have when you start this life. I suppose where I'm getting to this is, let's touch on some of the people you met on the road.
Yeah.
Because this podcast is about talking about, go and say hi to those strangers.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're a great representation of that, of who you can meet.
Yeah.
But who are some people that have shocked you?
Yeah. So this is funny because I was telling Steph when you come up to me and told me to do what your podcast was about, and this is literally a podcast I've wanted to do because I think it's such a cool idea. But one of the people that we met last year or the year before was in Broome, and I don't know if you've seen Malcolm Douglas, but he's like someone I like look up to, and he's not alive now, but his movies back in the day, like absolutely loved them. And we were staying at an Airbnb in Broome with one of our mates, and there was a little granny flat out the back. And I got chatting to the guy there, and I started mentioning Malcolm Douglas because we're in Broome, and he's basically the guy who put that town on the map. And started chatting with him about Malcolm Douglas, and then he went, I used to film his whole series. And then he just went into this amazing stories about living up north, bloody wrestling crocodiles, going up to Papua New Guinea, like all this amazing stuff. And he talked in depth about Malcolm, how he was as a person, all the dogs.
The original Malcolm Douglas Croc Park, which was really cool. It's closed now, but there's still crocs there. And we actually met Malcolm Douglas's son, which was pretty cool. And then we actually haven't gone to the new Malcolm Douglas, but we'll do that when we're in Broome next. But yeah, Mark was his name. But
it's always like that on the road. You're meeting so many interesting people. And like you said, once you get chatting to people, where the conversation goes is just incredible.
Do you make an effort when you park up next to someone to have a chat, or just kind of like, oh, hey, it's sort of like, I suppose, when you park up next to someone, you're both, living out of it. It's just customary to talk to them.
I would probably say I don't judge a book by its cover. Like, if someone's looking a bit sus, I'm not going to chat to them.
Yeah, I probably should learn that a little bit more.
But yes, I'll chat to, if someone comes up to me, I'll chat for hours. I'm always chatting to people.
Jacko's actually a big social butterfly.
Yeah.
So Jacko is always approached by people, but he also approaches a lot of people. We also met Barney and Kata Miller. Do you know Barney Miller at all?
No.
So he's a paraplegic, would you say?
What's waist down?
I think
paraplegic. Yeah, and so him and his beautiful wife, Kata, they travelled Australia a few years ago now in their Sprinter. And yeah, he's in a wheelchair. And he still surfs, but he lays down and everything. And they did their Oz trip all the way up to Broome. And that was a really extraordinary story to meet them. And Kata, wow, incredible. She does all the lifting and Barney does the driving. And yeah, just that was very wild to see, and something that we aren't seeing, that we don't see on a daily basis, I guess.
It was incredible.
It was really...
Their teamwork.
Yeah.
Their teamwork, in a wheelchair, traveling around Australia, the way they did it between the two of them was really... Because we were with them for about 3 weeks, and just watching it all was amazing. And that's just another... I'd known of Barney, but we bumped into each other on the road and started traveling together, and that's just another one of them situations where...
on the road.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Even talking to you guys today, I saw you guys. I was like, oh, yeah, sweet. Nice couple living out of their van, working in the mines. Cool story. And then as soon as we started speaking, I was like, oh, okay. This is actually really cool. I think we'll wrap the podcast up because...
We've had a few issues.
Oh, I can't believe it. This is first time it's happened this bad. Never until the other day's podcast did this happen before.
Yeah.
But hopefully we've got the things recording. We should have the whole podcast. It won't be all video, but I think with podcasts, no one really wants to watch the video too much anyway. So I'm keen to get this up on Spotify and YouTube, and so people can watch it. I like to finish the podcast with the final question, which you guys have already answered, but we weren't filming. What does Forgotten Gold mean to you? Because this song, the idea of this podcast, not only to get people talking to new people, is to promote my song. And the song's called Forgotten Gold, and it's about, not remembering things that have value, something that's so valuable to you, but you often forget about it. So what is your Forgotten Gold?
Yeah. And I think what goes well with this, I'm just going to start, everything happens for a reason. But the main thing that I feel people future travel in their mind too much, and I think need to live in the present more. A lot of the day you're sort of thinking about the past, or you're thinking about what you need to do in the future instead of just enjoying exactly what's happening right now. and it's a really hard thing to do. I try and work on it all the time, living in the moment, and I think it's one of the most important things you have to do.
I still don't know. Well, this stumps me, this question.
It is.
It honestly stumps me. I said overthinking last time. Don't overthink it and be more of a yes person. So maybe I'm still overthinking it. I thought this time I'd be a bit better and have one, but I think Jacko said it pretty well. So
I think that's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I would encourage everyone to follow along with your YouTube, and because your trip that you're about to have, you're going to document it,
yeah.
and it's fabulous. I'm so excited. I'm going to go home and watch it. So it is Coffey Breaks on YouTube,
Yeah.
and then just Jackson Coffey on Instagram and stuff like that.
And Steph Gillies, but yeah.
And if you're with the Coffey Break, you got to look it up on YouTube, not Safari, because it comes up with
Just Coffey Breaks.
coffee shops.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on basically 2 episodes, because we've had to. And I really hope this was all done, because this is one of the smoothest, awesomest conversations, and you guys are fascinating people. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Forgotten Gold podcast. If you're on YouTube listening to this, feel free to click the subscribe and the like button. It really helps a lot. And if you're on Spotify, leave a review if you liked it, and we'll see you next week for another episode.